everybody. Sorry, I'm a couple of minutes late starting this live all about Twitter because all of a sudden Facebook has given us a new toy to play with when we go live, which is being able to do an interactive poll. So I saw it pop up and I thought, oh, I'll set up some questions on that and test it out in this live as we go. So I've got some questions all ready to fire at you. Not entirely sure how it works, but I think it's fairly obvious. I've set up the questions and then I just have to ping them and you get to answer them, I believe. So we are going to be talking about Twitter because I know that a lot of people find Twitter confusing still, which is a real shame because Twitter is one of those places where you can create real opportunities for yourself and for your business without having to have like a massive following or a massive audience and without having to pay money on ads, although of course you can pay for ads on Twitter, but you don't have to if you don't want to. So I'm going to publish the first question. How exciting! There we are. The first question has come up and I'm going to take a little screen grab of that because it's very exciting that we can even ask that, don't you think? So first question is up. Do you use Twitter at the moment? Hi, Melina. I'm just messing around. Well, no, I'm not messing around because obviously I never mess around. I'm just messing around with this interactive poll feature that's just cropped up in the Facebook Live. So I'm going to ask a couple of questions as we do this live because that's really exciting. Nice to see you. Hoping that a couple of other people might join us, else it feels a bit like a one-to-one with lots of people looking on, but never mind, that's fine. So hopefully someone will answer my little question that I've got up there in my poll. I want to see what it looks like when someone hits an answer. Because I reckon this little feature that Facebook has given us, this interactive poll, will be really good at helping us to get engagement on our Facebook Lives, which means that more people will see our lives as they are actually happening, which of course is great because then they really start to build momentum. It does sound exciting. And it's really easy to set up. You just literally create your questions and 2 choices of answer. So that's all good. Oh, hi, June. Oh, lovely to see you here. You want to engage more on Twitter. Brilliant. Twitter is fantastic. I was just saying it's one of those social media networks. Just need to find the poll. Well, that's really weird because on my screen it's kind of sat up there next to my head when I see myself doing the live, but I don't know where it appears on your screen. So that's really weird. Yeah, Twitter is one of those networks that you don't have to have a massive audience or a massive following for to really get to work for you and your business. And that's why I think it's really exciting. But I know that an awful lot of businesses find it really overwhelming and really confusing and kind of lose their way a little bit. So don't worry too much about the poll if it's not obvious, but if you happen to see the question crop up, the question at the moment is, do you use Twitter at the moment, yes or no? So if you happen to see that question anywhere, it would be brilliant if you could press an answer because I just want to see how it works. We're testing this feature out at the same time. So one of the reasons why Twitter is so great is the fact that as businesses, we can actually go on there and talk directly to people. And you know that on Facebook, of course, with a Facebook page, you can't do that. Facebook puts a wall between businesses and people. But on Twitter, there isn't that wall there. And on Instagram, there isn't that wall there either. Oh, you can't see the poll. That is so weird. Okay. Well, that's a nice feature, Facebook. Thank you very much. But you're not actually making it obvious. It did pop up, then it disappeared. Okay. All right. I'll try another question in a bit and then I'll see what happens. Maybe I asked the question too early. So Twitter is great if we want to actually go out there as businesses and talk to people. And that can seem a little bit intimidating, a little bit daunting, but it doesn't have to be. But of course, Twitter is also one of those places that is really busy. So if you share a tweet on Twitter, which is the equivalent of a post on Facebook or on Instagram, Whereas on Facebook or on Instagram, that post will kind of hang around for a while and it might resurface the following day. On Twitter, your tweet will probably hang around for about 20 to 40 minutes. So in order to keep top of mind on Twitter, you need to be creating a lot more tweets than you would do posts on Facebook or Instagram. So that is, if you like, its slight disadvantage. It's a bit more intense in terms of actually having to be present and create stuff to share on there. But Twitter is also the home of being able to create something on the fly, create a remark on the fly, or share an opinion on something that you've just seen. And that's totally acceptable. Whereas on Facebook and especially on Instagram, you wouldn't necessarily do that. You would feel that maybe you had to create a whole brand new piece of content. Twitter is very much about not only sharing new stuff, but also responding to what's happening, what other people are sharing, responding to what's happening in the news. And that's a perfectly acceptable way to show up as well. So that's all slightly different. It is I saw someone who I really respect in this space describing it today as like a fire hose of human connection where all sorts of opportunities and things present themselves. It's just up to us to then go and grab them, if you like. So we know that businesses can talk to people directly, which is fab. We also know that it's quite a fast moving network. You can now use 240 characters in a tweet. It used to be that you could only use 120. You can now use 240. So that means that you can actually share quite a lot on Twitter. The other difference between Twitter and Facebook is that Facebook doesn't like you sharing links back to external websites within Facebook posts. You'll find that if you do that on Facebook, both on your personal profile and on your business page, that Facebook will decrease the reach, like not many people are going to see that post. Whereas if you do it on Twitter, it's completely fine. And actually, Twitter, for many, many people, has been a brilliant source of attracting visitors to people's websites. And in fact, that's what an awful lot of internet users have used it for, as a way to simply drive visitors to their website by sharing a link to a blog post or by sharing a link to something that they've got on their website. Having said that, those people are now suffering from a real lack of response or engagement on Twitter, because all they are doing and all they have been doing is, if you like, blasting out a load of tweets which have got a load of links in them back to their website, and they're finding that that strategy doesn't work so well anymore. People aren't so interested in always jumping off from a tweet and going to an external website. And we know that, don't we? People have got lazier and lazier. So by all means, sometimes send people across to a website from Twitter, but don't be thinking of it as a way to just drive traffic to, I hate that word, just drive visitors to your website. It's about an awful lot more than that. And those people that were just doing that are now coming unstuck, because actually Twitter is a place to have conversations. It's a place to meet new people and have conversations that can spark those opportunities or spark those connections. Now that all sounds really random, but it doesn't have to be. We can use Twitter in a really strategic way. There are two ways of using Twitter. One is to build up your audience on Twitter and to then share tweets that would encourage people to get to know, like, and trust you, just like you would with any other social media platform. So those tweets might be a mixture of things that would educate your audience, things that would entertain your audience, things that would send people back to your website, things that let people know who you are and what you do in your business, testimonials so that people understand what other people say about you, which of course we know is really powerful. So you can do all that stuff within your tweets. And if you want to use Twitter in that way, that's great, and that works nicely. You probably want to be looking at sharing a minimum of 3 tweets a day to make sure that you keep top of mind, which can seem like quite a tall order, but don't forget, you can actually reuse stuff that you've created for elsewhere. You can create a post on Facebook and you can like tweak it slightly to fit Twitter. Don't share it directly from Facebook because that just looks pants. That looks like you haven't cared at all about the people who are there on Twitter. But you can create something for Facebook or Instagram and then reuse it on Twitter. You can also create a whole batch of posts and schedule them, or tweets rather, and schedule them to go out for you, to be posted out for you automatically. And there are tools that will do this for you free of charge, one of which is Buffer. Buffer has been around for a while and is a favorite of lots of people I know. Another one is a tool called Content Cal, and that also gives you a stream within it where you can actually do some content planning for other networks as well. So you might want to look at that if you don't want just scheduling. And there are other tools as well, but those are two of my faves. So is that all right so far, or have I rattled on too quickly and been a bit confusing, or are we okay with that sort of approach? Time for a quick slurp of coffee. Yes, it was really fun. Good, 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 good. Oh, the wall with Facebook, I just meant a virtual wall, Melina. It's just my way of looking at it. Yes, Twitter is fun and it can still be fun. The other thing to remember about Twitter is it's a place where lots of journalists hang out because they are looking for stories. It's where they live now. So that is also worth bearing in mind. So, okay, we can use Twitter, we can build our audience, we can share tweets. But what we have to remember with Twitter is it isn't just about blasting tweets out. You remember I said that internet marketers who were relying on that strategy are now finding that their results are decreasing because Twitter is really all about going back and actually talking to people. So at the very least, if you're using that method of building your audience and then sharing tweets, please make sure that you check in a couple of times a day to respond to people who have responded to your tweets, that you have a conversation with them. But the other thing that you can do is that there are lots of cues on Twitter for starting a conversation with people. So if you see that somebody has followed you, it's really nice to go back, especially in the early days when you're building up your audience, when you're building up your impact. It's really nice to go back, have a look at the profile of the person involved. And if you think they are someone that you could be interested in or someone who might be good for your business, have a quick look at their profile or at some tweets they've put out recently and respond, say, thank you for following me. And then kind of ask them a question or make a comment on something that they've shared, something like that. It's a great way to then start a conversation going and get to know that person a little bit. There was a client that I was helping with Twitter a couple of years ago now, but we did this. She went out and was active on Twitter, so started attracting in the right sort of followers. And so we started then engaging when anyone followed the account, we started engaging with them. And as a result, she ended up with an interview on a local radio station that very week. She'd only just started on Twitter. So, I mean, these things can very quickly go from just a quick, oh, hi, nice to meet you type of thing on Twitter to actually something really useful for your business. And that's what I mean about creating the opportunities for yourself. Another cue to have a conversation would be if somebody retweets your content. And that is when you go onto Twitter and you see a tweet, at the bottom you'll see a little heart, so you could like the tweet, a little comment shape icon which you would hit if you wanted to just reply to a tweet, and you see the little double arrow, box-shaped arrow, and that is a tool that allows you to share that tweet to your audience or retweet it. And if you do that to somebody else's tweet, that is seen as a compliment because you're taking their piece of content and you're sharing it on to your network. So they would probably come back and say, thank you very much. We'll talk about that in a minute. But if somebody retweets your content, then absolutely it's a cue for you then to go back and say, thank you so much for sharing this with your connections or your contacts or whatever. And there again, you could ask them something about themselves, you could ask about what they found most useful about it, or you could just follow up and talk a little bit more about the subject of the piece that you shared initially in your tweet. It's a great way to start a conversation. Now, I'm not saying that you've got to go into Twitter and start a conversation with everybody who follows you, or even everybody who retweets you, but it is nice to say thank you for a retweet, and it's very boring if you just say thank you every time. So do think about having a little conversation there. But certainly not everyone that follows you is going to warrant a follow back or a conversation, but some of them will. And it's a great way to actually get some conversations started. Oh, good. So we can think about talking with people on Twitter, engaging with people who've responded to you, and engaging with people who have followed you or who have retweeted your content. So that's a really good starting point. Say 3 tweets a day, some engagement, some going back to people who have followed you. Also think about sharing, retweeting other people's tweets to your network, because that shows that you're not just focused on you, but you are also going out there looking at what other people are sharing and thinking, yeah, this is really good, I want to share it on. So it gives an impression, obviously, of you looking outside your little world and seeing that other people have quality and benefit as well, and sharing that on, which is always a great way to be. If you come across as being friendly, supportive, proactive, interactive, that's going to do wonders for your brand, and it's going to do wonders for building your impact quite quickly on Twitter. So that's a basic strategy. How do we build our audience on Twitter? You keep saying, oh, build your audience on Twitter, Julia, but how do we actually do that? Right. One is by actually sharing great stuff. You'll find that you attract people naturally by doing that, but that's quite a slow burn if you rely on that on its own. So the other thing I suggest is actually going out and finding the people that you would love to follow you and go and follow them. Because when you follow them, probably about 50% of them will follow you back. So how can you find the right kind of people for you? Well, have a look at maybe influencers in your space and have a whiz through their followers. Whenever you find a profile on Twitter, you can always have a look underneath that profile, either on desktop or on a mobile, and see their followers and who they're following. Have a look at their followers and pick out some of them and start following them. And then you might find that from just doing that very basic bit of research that you actually find someone else who looks really good as an influencer, and you might go off and follow them and have a look at their followers as well. So you can start there, and then you will find very quickly that this kind of web of connectedness builds out, and you will find lots of people to follow. Or you can use the search function on Twitter, which is like the little magnifying glass icon, and you can search using keywords. And when you search using words on Twitter, you'll find that you bring up accounts, what they call people. You'll bring up tweets containing those keywords as well, and either like the latest ones or the top ones. So just have a rummage through. Go and do a few searches and see what's out there. See what is a useful search for you, and see what brings up maybe relevant people for you, or even relevant tweets for you that you could potentially respond to, because that could be part of a wider strategy that we'll come to in a minute. But using that search function is great, and it will start to open up that world of Twitter for you a little bit, and you'll really start to see what's what. So have a look at that search function. So I would recommend starting to follow maybe about 30, 40 accounts on Twitter a day if you're starting to build your following up. Don't go mad, because Twitter will then think that you're being spammy. And once you get to a certain level, if you do this and you don't get that many followers back, you're going to have this big imbalance of people that you're following versus the people who are following you back. So you want to take stock every few days or so and use a tool such as Manage Flitter, which has a free and a paid version. but you can use a tool such as Manage Flitter to actually go in and see who is following you on Twitter and who isn't. So if you want to, you can go and unfollow some of those people who haven't followed you back within a certain time frame. You won't want to unfollow everybody because some people will be really interesting. You just want to listen to them. You just want to engage with them anyway because their content is great. You can whitelist those people. You can also unfollow anybody who's actually gone quiet on Twitter or who is actually seen by Twitter as a bot, because sometimes you pick them up without even realizing. So that's a really useful tool. It's called Manage Flitter. So that's the basis really of building up your audience on Twitter. It's not complicated, it just takes a bit of work. So are we all right with that so far? I'm going to ping another poll question at you and see if it actually pops up this time. I can't publish the results of that one because I've got no closed. Okay. Did you say Manage Flitter or Twitter? I said Manage Flitter, June. So yeah, it's Manage and then Flitter, F-L-I-T-T-E-R. Let me pop it in here. I don't know if it's got a capital in the middle, but I always reckon it makes it easier to read the word. Right. That one's closed, that question now, apparently. This is very exciting, this poll feature. Right, let's try this one. Publishing another question. Right, can you see that question on the poll? That'd be nice if you could. Come on, Facebook, give us all these tools and then hide them from people. It's not as exciting as it should be. So the next question that I've asked on this little poll, hopefully you can see it. Will you use Twitter in the future? Yes or no? Fab. Can you actually see the poll? It'd be really nice if you could. Right, I'm not going to get distracted with the poll because we're talking about Twitter. I just wanted to see if this Facebook Live tool was working. It doesn't seem like it's necessarily the most intuitive. Maybe because I'm on a desktop. Maybe if I was doing it on a phone, it would work differently. Don't know. Right. Now, there are some, as you can imagine, tips and tricks to help get even more oomph from Twitter and have even more impact really quickly. So we will dive into, it's a little button in the right hand corner. Okay, can see it now, but can't click on it. Can see it, won't let me click on it. Brilliant. Oh, Scott, you've got it. Right hand corner on desktop, little purple circle. But if it doesn't let you click on it, then, okay, maybe you just have to type the answer. I don't know. But then why does it, that's so weird, because then why does it say that I have to give two options of answer if it then actually wants you to just comment? I don't understand that. Oh well, it'll all come out in the wash, I guess. Right, let's get back to Twitter. Thank you for responding while we test this tool out. Gotta love it, haven't you, all these new features. So, Twitter, adding some oomph to your Twitter impact. The way that you can do this is by maybe taking a bravery pill, but by actually using Twitter and going and joining in conversations that are already happening on Twitter, or by searching for people who could be really useful for your business and getting in front of them and starting to talk to them. So this can be a brilliant way of making new connections and building new networks. So if you know there are particular types of people that would be really useful for you in your business. So for example, I've worked with a franchise where they do arts and crafts classes for young children, and they are always looking at maybe venues who might want to use them when they're having an open day or something like that. So they could go and find all sorts of local venues on Twitter and start talking to those people. Do you see what I mean? So if somebody's got an audience of people who could be really good for your business, or if somebody is an influencer in your space, for example, or just has the type of business that you know might work well as somebody for you to talk to, or somebody for you potentially to collaborate with, or just another local business, that would be great, wouldn't it? Because all of us do operate from some form of locality, even if we serve the whole of the UK. Go and find them on Twitter and start having a conversation with them. Start having a conversation with them, Julia. How on earth do I do that? Well, what you do is you listen to them. So you watch the tweets that they put out and you respond to their tweets. So you might want to comment on them with something, just saying you empathize, depending on what the tweet is, saying you empathize, or that's amazing, or adding some value, or adding your opinion. Or if it's a great tweet, you might want to retweet it onto your community. And every time you do that, they will get a notification from Twitter that you have commented or that you have retweeted. So the chances are that they will come back and then respond to you. And then you can build this up to actually have a conversation. It really is as simple as that. The key is in doing a bit of a search, doing a bit of a rummage, as I call it, on Twitter, and just seeing who's out there and starting a conversation with them. It might take a little bit of time, but it is so well worth it. I can't tell you. When you've found those people, if you've started following quite a few other people as well, you will find that their tweets may very well get lost in your Twitter news feed. So what you can do is you can actually put those people into a list. And when you have a list set up on Twitter, when you go into that list, the tweets that you see are only the tweets of people on that list. So if you go into Twitter on either a desktop or your phone, and you see your little photo thumbnail at the top, if you either click on that or click on the thumbnail or click on the cogs next to it, you'll get a drop down, and part of that drop down menu will be lists. So if you click on that or tap on it, then it will literally Twitter will prompt you to create a list. And all you do is give this list a name and then add profiles to it. And you can decide whether you want that to be a public list, in which case people will get told when they get added to it and they will get told the title of the list, or it can be a private list, in which case they won't know that they've been added to it. So you can almost do a little bit of stalking if you want to, but it's up to you. You might choose to have a public list. Like I've got a public list of Devon businesses, for example, that I add people to. I've got no problem with people knowing that I've got that, although I haven't updated it in a while. But I've also got some private lists of, for example, event planners, or because I'd like to do a little bit more speaking, or I've got private lists of influencers that I want to keep in front of. So every now and again, I go and check out those lists and see what those people have tweeted and go and respond to those tweets or retweet them. So I'm kept top of mind. Plus, if you go and respond to a tweet of an influencer who, say, has got 150,000 followers, and they come and talk back to you, then all their followers will potentially see that they have tweeted you. If they retweet you, even better, because all their followers will definitely see that, as long as they actually hop onto Twitter within a certain time frame. Plus, Twitter does have an algorithm, just like Facebook has an algorithm. So the more that you talk to people, the more those people then see the tweets that you put out. So say I have recently retweeted content that was posted by Jack and Dayshad and Sue, for example, then when Jack and Dayshad and Sue come into Twitter next time, they will probably get a notification of tweets you may have missed. And if I've tweeted in the interim, one of my tweets will probably come up on that in their Twitter newsfeed. So that's how the Twitter algorithm works. The more you actually talk with people, the more they will then see the next tweets that you put out. So you can start to be really quite strategic and quite savvy. Oh, it works for you. How exciting. Sorry, the Facebook poll goes on. Yes, filter people with lists. You're following 63,000 people. Oh my goodness, Melina. Yes, set up some lists. Will other people who are not on the list? No, they're not on the list. No, they won't. No, they won't. So you won't offend anybody. If you've got private lists, then you won't offend anybody. The other thing you might want to do, Melina, is if you want to filter down those 63,000 people, you could use Manage Flitter just to go through and see if any of them are now inactive. And then you can actually unfollow those people who are inactive. That will help you to filter down as well. I'm not saying go and unfollow any of those people if they're still tweeting, if you don't want to, but if they're inactive, it would help you to decrease that number a little bit. So who is now feeling that they might be brave enough to go out and do a search and actually find some people and start talking to them on Twitter? I hope I get a resounding yes on that one, because it's really exciting. Especially the way the algorithm works. So I've got a couple of people that I tweet with who have got over 100,000 followers. And I know that if I tweet with them and they tweet back, I'm going to get a boost in like my tweets reach and then the subsequent engagement and stuff that I get. That isn't the reason that I tweet them, but I know that it's going to happen. I tweet them because I enjoy their content and I know them as people and I like them as people. And that's the other thing, you can really get to know people quite quickly on Twitter, because people who use Twitter do tend to tweet more than once a day and do tend to come on and have a conversation. So you can really start to get to know people. Whereas if it's just Facebook pages or Instagram where you put out one post a day, it's actually quite difficult sometimes to get the measure of somebody. And those two places tend to be places where people are a lot more polished. Twitter tends to be a little bit more authentic and a little bit more real, as long as you can find the people who aren't just posting out links to their blogs and stuff all the time, because yeah, that's not showing very much of their personality. It's a bit more different. I've been known to drag my feet a lot. Well, Melina, we have to speed your feet up, don't we? I need to build more Twitter into my daily social use. Yes, it really is, like, it's fun when you get going. I know it's a little bit daunting maybe to start off, but it is fun when you get going, I promise you, because of this thing, because people are on there to chat and share opinion. And the other thing is, occasionally you'll get stuff going on there which is just funny. So someone will make a comment or something will happen in the news, and then Twitter just kicks off, just kind of making fun of it. Not in you do get Twitter trolls, but generally it's not in a horrible way. It's just a kind of funny way, and people's sense of humor comes out. Or someone just starts like, you know, oh, list all the song titles you can think of that have got, you know, bread in the title or something like that. And you get some really wacky things. And these things just go on and on and on all day. And it is just hilarious. There were some tweets going on over the summer about Gareth Southgate, because of course he leapt to fame because of the World Cup and he seemed like such a nice person. So there was this Twitter conversation going on with a little label in it, hashtag, I'll talk about that in a minute, Gareth Southgate would, because he was so nice. So people were like listing all the things that they thought Gareth Southgate would do because he was so nice. And it was genuinely just such a lovely like Twitter conversation, and thousands and thousands and thousands of people joined in with sharing what they thought Gareth Southgate would do. That was really kind and lovely. And it's just like, those kind of things just kick off and go mad. And I haven't seen that happen on any other social network. And it's just, yeah, it's just kind of lovely. It can restore your faith in human nature if you ever need it sometimes. Would you say Twitter is more fun than Facebook? Yeah, the thing I love on Facebook is the fact that you can have kind of those threaded discussions where you can actually start to share opinion and stuff like that, especially in groups, but also on the newsfeed. So I love Facebook for that, but I love Twitter for maybe more, I do get a pick up quite a lot of political opinions there, but also maybe the more light-hearted stuff. people don't tend to go into so much depth on Twitter because the format doesn't let you, because you've only got 240 characters. So I like them both for different reasons. Melina, I think I'm finding everything overwhelming. There's Facebook ads, Twitter, Instagram. I'm like, where should I focus my attention? I think I have more of an appreciation for people who struggle with marketing. Yeah, I agree. I think if you're going to use Facebook, then you need to be thinking about either using ads, in which case it can be a little bit more of a set and forget. You don't have to actively go in there all the time, or a group, which of course is a bit more intense. Instagram, yes, Instagram is great. To get impact on Instagram, you do need to go on and do some engaging with people as well. But Twitter, you can actually build up your impact really quite quickly without having to pay for ads, and without having to produce beautiful photos. With Instagram, if you're going to build up your impact there, you are going to need to be producing 1-minute videos or beautiful images every day. Twitter, your images obviously work well on Twitter, as do videos, and you can do live on Twitter as well, but it doesn't have to be so beautiful. So on Instagram, you are vying for attention against other images and beautiful images, whereas on Twitter, not so much. It could be a funny meme, for example, but it doesn't have to be a beautiful image. So it's kind of thinking maybe about what type of content you love to share and how you enjoy using social as a person, as much as where your people are going to be, because they're probably pretty much everywhere. So it's thinking about, your routine and how you enjoy using social and what you think will suit you. But it's definitely worth having a go at Twitter. The other way that you can build your impact on Twitter really quickly is to join. Have you ever gone onto Twitter and see trending topics? So that is when something has taken off on Twitter, and it could be this Gareth Southgate Wood conversation. It could be something really mad like that, or it could be something that's happened in the news. It could be responses to TV programs, anything. You will find that if lots of people are tweeting about it, it will come up as a trending topic, which means that if you tweet about it as well and include those words that are trending within your tweet, then anybody who comes and sees, oh, that's a trending topic, I'll find out more about that, clicks on that, they potentially see your tweet coming up. So that's a way of getting your stuff in front of a much wider audience of people who aren't following you. So searching for people is a great way to get in touch and get in front of people who aren't following you already. And so is this idea of joining in with trending topics. Now, some of those trending topics are like awareness days, like National Quiet Day. And I believe I saw that it was National Smile Day today, and also National Teachers Day. So both of those were trending on Twitter this morning. So all of us could put together a tweet that included the words National Smile Day with a hashtag in front. And the hashtag is simply just a label, just like it is on Instagram. All of us could create a tweet that could be relevant to our business that has something about National Smile Day. And it could just be, it's National Smile Day, let's all smile, it's Friday, or something cheesy like that. Or you could do something a little bit more eye-catching. But any of us could do that. And by sharing that, we could get out into the news feeds in front of people who aren't already following us. Innocent Smoothies do a lovely job of this. I saw them, except they're not called Instant Smoothies, are they? Just called Innocent. They tweet religiously when Great British Bake Off is on, because they know that a lot of their audience watch Great British Bake Off, and every time it comes on, the hashtag GBBO is trending on Twitter, because so many people are on Twitter commenting and talking about it, and Innocent Smoothies just joins in. They don't talk about their smoothies, they don't talk about their stuff, they just literally sit there and create funny tweets about this program as it's unfolding, just like the rest of the nation is doing, or whoever's watching it across the world. And that way they just have people joining in conversations with them, and they stay top of mind with people, and they will end up with more people following them as a result. I don't know. Chrome is now asking me if I want to reload. I got loads of clients from Twitter years ago by using it strategically, but I've not used it for years. I've got Chrome giving me some strange messages. So I hope that my live is still live and it's not doing, it's asking me if I want to reload my page. And no, I don't want to reload my page because I'm in the middle of a live. Thank you, Chrome. The other thing you can do is actually look out for Twitter chats that are relevant to your business or to your local area. And this is when people come onto Twitter at a certain time and a certain day of the week, usually for about an hour, say between 8 and 9, there is hashtag Devon Hour, which means that lots of businesses and people from Devon come onto Twitter at 8 o'clock on a Wednesday evening and just chat with each other. It's just literally like networking, except you're doing it on Twitter. And what you do there is you include that hashtag within your tweet so that anybody wanting to come in and join that conversation would search for that hashtag, and that would bring up all those tweets with that hashtag in, and they can then just respond to anybody else's tweet and also add their own in. Obviously, that's not a place to sell. That is a place to have conversations. And there are very often Twitter chats that will be relevant to your sector as well. There are lots of Twitter chats about marketing, about holistic health, about food, about parenting, about children, about horses, all sorts of things. There are also Twitter chats that are basically book clubs on Twitter, virtually everything. It's a bit like a Facebook group, except it is a chat on Twitter. So joining in that, good. I'm glad I'm still live. I don't know what Chrome is doing for me. So joining in a Twitter chat can be a really brilliant way to actually get, if you're doing an industry specific one, to actually get seen by, for example, the big influencers or the thought leaders who are also joining in with that Twitter chat, or indeed people who want to find out more about that subject or that sector, who will then start to recognize your expertise and your credibility. So if you don't want to spend that much time on Twitter during the week, it might be worth just hunting out 1 or 2 Twitter chats and having maybe an intense burst of Twitter activity, taking part in those Twitter chats. That's an alternative strategy. And if you want to find a Twitter chat, if you want to have a look in your sector, either use Twitter search and just use keyword search for things that you think, for words that you think might be relevant, that might bring up a Twitter chat, or Google Twitter chat with a word after it and see what comes up. Now, some people start these and then they kind of die a bit of a death, so they don't carry on, but there are an awful lot of local Twitter chats, if nothing else, and there will still be active ones in your area, I can guarantee it. So they might be a good place to start. If you want to just listen without joining in for the first couple of goes, so you get a flavour of them, then just pull up the tweets from that Twitter chat and see what comes up. Some people, of course, use them to spam, because people always do, sadly, but I'm hoping that there will be some valuable tweets in there for you to respond to as well. The other thing to mention here is that journalists, as I mentioned before, are on Twitter all the time. And very often they will either pick up on stories because they see stuff trending and they will go through the trending tweets or whatever, and they'll create an article out of it, or they will go onto Twitter with a specific question in mind. They want to find out specific information. And when that happens, they very often use a hashtag in their tweets themselves. So they will say something like, has anyone recently traveled to Borneo? I would love to get your review of X area for a piece I'm writing, for example. And then they will use the hashtag journo request. And it can be all sorts of things that they ask for. Teenage girls who feel pressured by Instagram, or mums with children under 5 to get their responses to the new sugar tax, or whatever it happens to be. But just sometimes it's worth monitoring, basically. That hashtag is what I'm trying to say, because sometimes there will be ones that you can respond to. Even if you're not spot on the person that they're looking for, if you respond to that journalist, even if they can't use you that time, then all of a sudden they know your name and they know what you're about and what you do. So I've responded to journo requests before, and there was one where I responded when there was somebody looking to see what business books business owners would recommend, because they were putting together like a summer reading list piece, and it actually ended up in The Guardian, I think. And so I responded. But then when she was doing an actual live Q&A piece for The Guardian, this journalist came back to me because I'd already responded about the business books. And so she knew me and she knew what I did. So I got asked to do this live Q&A. Similarly, I ended up responding to a journalist who wanted a mum with children of a certain age who'd done work for her on her house recently for a piece for Bella magazine, of all places. And it ended up with like this tiny little piece, because we just built a conservatory, about 4 lines in a side column of Bella. But I got paid 250 quid for the privilege, which was nice. But then again, the journalist came back to me when they were doing a piece on parents and their spending habits around Christmas, and using sort of racking up points on store cards and then using them at Christmas to buy presents for the children, because she knew by then I had 6 children, so I was likely to do this. So I helped her out with that piece, and as a result we had a photographer come and take a load of snaps of the whole family, and I got a full page spread, crazily enough, on my family and my spending habits over Christmas. But that did mention my business as well, and that went into The Guardian and The Observer. So that was free PR. So that really does work. And I've met up with journalists. I've met up with all sorts of people on Twitter. I've met up with a social media influencer about 4 or 5 years ago, who then ended up putting on an event where he got lots of social media people together that I ended up going to, that then introduced me to all these other social media people who are just like brilliant, and that has springboarded me into loads of speaking gigs and loads more business opportunities. And I can't tell you how much else has come out of that, and that's all from just responding to an original journo on Twitter. And I then ended up in writing for the same article as somebody else who was the wife of this social media influencer. So you never know what is there waiting for you on Twitter until you go on and actually start having conversations there. But you can just keep it nice and ring-fenced, if you like, and build your following and share regular tweets and just engage with people. Or you can really ramp up your impact much more quickly by kind of going outside of that comfort zone of your own audience, searching for other people to respond to, joining in with trending topics, going and joining in with Twitter chats, responding to journo requests. And all of a sudden you will find that actually you're seeing a lot of activity and a lot of response on Twitter. Twitter does have its own analytics. They are best to look at on a laptop, but you can go in and it will give you a summary of like all the engagement that you've got and retweets and stuff like that. But you can also then go through the different tabs. One of them is your top tweets. So you can find your most engaging tweet, for example. So if you want to get loads of engagement on your Twitter, then you start to see what's working well for you and what's not working so well for you, so you can do more of what works well. You can also, some of those tabs also start to give you insight into your audience. So you can actually find out what the top interests of your audience are to make sure that you're kind of hitting the right spot and attracting the right sort of people, but also that can help to guide you in terms of the tweets that you might create. They've also got information from partner sites about people's spending habits and household income and all sorts of stuff like that. Yep, you thought it was just Facebook that did this stuff, but no, Twitter does it as well. And actually all that information is sitting there in Twitter analytics for you. So you might want to have a quick look at that when you've got 10 minutes to spare, because that can be really quite interesting. But just have a look at analytics every now and again to make sure that you are on the right track with your Twitter. So that was basically a quick whiz through Twitter in all its glory. And I'm getting very distracted. So last, by this stupid message from Chrome that's coming up all the time. Last question is coming up now on this poll feature. And Chrome keeps asking me, do I want to reload? And I'm thinking, no, I don't want to reload. Keep me live, please. You've chosen the wrong moment to be asking me this. Please go away and leave me alone. So, are there any more questions about Twitter, or do you want to go out there now and have a play with it and maybe come back with any questions that you might have? It is so cool. Or do make sure your cover photo and your bio are giving you the best shot at making a right first impression as well. It's the last thing to say about Twitter, because obviously people will come and check you out, and your analytics will actually show you how many people have come to visit your profile, i.e. have come to find out a little bit more about you this month or this week or whatever. So make sure that you're giving the best first impression that you can. I'm seeing the question you asked earlier. Marvelous! You've got to love all new tools, haven't you? Brilliant. Never mind. If that is it in terms of questions, I think I will sign off and I will let you run away and try Twitter. How about everybody goes and dives into Twitter today at some point, even for just 10 minutes, and you come back into the group and feedback how you found it or what you think you might do with it in the future, because it would be really, really nice to know that this information has actually been useful rather than this information has been something that I've shared that you found interesting but doesn't actually get used at all in your business. That would be a little bit sad. It would be lovely to know that it inspires you to go and just try Twitter and see what you find. Lots of food for thought. Oh, good. Yeah, journo request is brilliant. Oh, hi, Andy. Didn't know you were here. Journo request is brilliant. It's a fantastic way to get free PR, basically. And no one's going to say no to that, are they? And you never know where that will lead. And as I said, once journalists get to know who you are and get to know that you're a reliable source of information, or there's something a little bit different about you or whatever, because there's something a bit different about all of us at the end of the day, then they know who to come back to when they're writing another article. So it's great to build those relationships. And if, of course, you wanted to pitch a particular journalist with a particular press release or something, then you could actually start to strategically build up a relationship with specific journalists on Twitter as well, if you wanted to. There are all sorts of ways of using this tool. You can use it for listening to find out what people are talking about, what they're kind of moaning about with respect to your sector. You can use it to listen to the questions that people are asking if you want ideas for blogs and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, there's no end to ways that you can use Twitter, but those strategies that I've shared today are the ones that are really going to help you maximize your presence there for your business. And of course, you need to think about how you're going to take people from having an interest on Twitter, for example, back to becoming a client of yours. So it could be that you occasionally share a way for people to book an appointment with you, if that's how you tend to nudge people from being interested to becoming customers, for example. Or you might want to share a link to a squeeze page where people can jump across and download something of value in return for giving you their email address, so that you can then carry on with email marketing. You might have a Facebook group that you bring people to, from where people tend to get active and get to know, like, and trust you and become your customer from there. There are all sorts of ways, obviously, to take people from being interested in you on social media to becoming your customer or client. If you've got retail premises, then you can literally share a voucher code every so often on Twitter and say, you know, come and enjoy 15% off, or get a free so-and-so when you spend £50 today in store, or whatever it is, to encourage people to come into store. There are some lovely things that some of the big burger chains do. Not that I like the chains, but they do, like in response to current events, just to kind of link them through to their burgers, so they get seen in trending topics, and they make a bit of a funny about what's happening at the moment, and then they invite people into their store, or give them an incentive to come into their store, or say just saying, or whatever. So there are lots of like funny and quirky or markety or whatever ways you like to use of taking that interest on Twitter and nudging people from that to becoming a client or a customer of yours, depending on, of course, how you would do that in your business in the first place. So do think about that. Do think about what you want to achieve with Twitter in the first place, and what pathway, if you like, you're going to nudge your people down from showing an interest to actually becoming a customer. So I'm so glad that's been useful, Melina. Thank you. If you've got any more questions after this, then please do come and post them in the group. I'm only too happy to answer them. But please go and try Twitter and let me know how you do, because I really want it to work for you, because it is so fab. All right, thank you so much for being here, and enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy Twitter, and I will see you again next time. Thank you. Bye.